hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifesting. The gods work like appliances, dealing in my psyche.
Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, and today I'm going to be having a conversation with you guys about the time skip of Boruto, talking about what all of us have been waiting to see, which is essentially that 4-year period after the versus Momoshiki arc, where you have 16-year-old Boruto versus 16-year-old Kawaki, and getting the answer as to what happened when the Hidden Leaf Village was destroyed. And I gotta say, for the anime only viewers, this is the time of the month where I am going to be talking about spoilers, so I thank you for your support. There's plenty of content on the channel. I have over 500 videos on here, and roughly 80% of those videos are non-spoilers, so I thank you for your support. But if you're still here, then I'm gonna assume you're okay with me talking about spoilers. So as I was going back and rereading Boruto chapter 43, in particular I was looking at the panels that dealt with the defeat of Boro, and the thing that stood out to me is the fact that we have yet another Kara member who has been defeated. And when you really sit back and think about it, the members of Kara are being wiped out faster than the members of the Akatsuki were being wiped out in the Naruto manga. And so that tells me one of two things. First of all, that tells me that when it comes to Kara, we were focused so much on the inner members. So the people like Delta and Kashin, Koji, and Boro, Code, we focused so much on those characters that we might have needed to been paying attention to the outer members, which I'll touch on in a second. But the other thing is we've seen most of these people fight. Like, we've seen Kashin Koji kill one of the inner members. We've seen Kawaki kill another member from Kara at that point. We've seen Delta get in a fight with Naruto. We've seen Boro be wiped out. The only one we hadn't really seen fight, the only one we hadn't seen fight is Code, and he's guarding the Ten Tails. And what's to say that Sasuke doesn't show up with backup and they capture Code or they outright kill Code? I mean, dropping that line in there that Code's gonna be guarding the Ten Tails is something that lets you know that, okay, there's something else going on here with this character. Now, the reason why I think that all this is building us towards a time skip is if Kara was gonna be this overarching threat that we would have gotten, they wouldn't be getting taken out so quickly. We wouldn't have somebody going rogue so very quickly this early on. So when it comes to the Kara organization, I think that they're basically being used to do what Masashi Kishimoto said back in 2017, which was essentially the Boruto manga is going to start off in a lighthearted sense and it's quickly going to progress towards being dark, and the anime is going to take longer to get to that point. Now, when you look at the time skip, we know that a lot of dark stuff's happened, okay? Momoshiki's prophecy has potentially come true at that point because Boruto's lost his entire village. We don't know how many people were defeated, but the thing is because of how quickly all this stuff at Kara is wrapping up in terms of chapters, I think that they're approaching the time skip. Like, I had a conversation with Eternal Hokage on Thursday, so the day that the chapter came up, I had already begun writing down bullet points for stuff I wanted to talk about in future videos before we had gotten in and spoken, right? And one of the things that we talked about in that 5-hour call that we had was the fact that if there was a time skip within the next 11 months, so literally in our time, in the next 11 months, I wouldn't be shocked, because too many of the plot threads that we have are now starting to be tied up. And if you go back to the Naruto manga, it's following a very eerily similar stance where you had this overarching threat of Orochimaru, and Orochimaru accomplished what he wanted, which is essentially he had Sasuke taken over to him. He finally got Sasuke in his clutches. The only thing that was left was the fact that he didn't quite have Sasuke's body. He had to wait 3 years for that. But over the span of roughly 3 years, Orochimaru in real time was able to be introduced as a major villain, was able to be introduced as a character who was far above our main character and far above the heroes protectors of the main character. So this being Jiraiya, this being Tsunade, the third Hokage, the characters that are charged with protecting Naruto, basically. The people charged with protecting Naruto, these characters, Orochimaru in some way, shape, form, or fashion was either able to get the better of them or was confirmed to be stronger than them. Tsunade, there's a little bit of a question mark there because I personally think Tsunade probably could have killed Orochimaru in that fight, but that remains to be seen. Again, that's a conversation for another day, but essentially, and everything wrapped up by the time you got to chapter 237 and 238, where you have that 3-month time skip where Naruto's leaving to go train with Jiraiya. And so when you look here, the whole thread of Car has essentially, it's in the process of winding down. Like, we know that Jigen is going to be a huge threat, just like Orochimaru was. We know that Ishiki Asusuke is going to be a huge threat. Absolutely, that's going to happen. But when you look at it, you have the potential that Jigen might be killed and Ishiki's going to take over Kawaki's body. The other thing is when you look at the Car organization, Naruto has intel on Delta, so next time that anyone from Konoha who is of significant power, so whether that be Rock Lee, whether that be Hinata, whether that be Sakura, whether that be Sasuke, damn it, anybody that fights Delta is going to have intel, they're going to know how to counter, and they're ultimately going to defeat Delta. Now you have the person in Code that you have to worry about, but we know nothing about Code, but a battle with Code is something that could very well be something we see before the end of the time skip, because a lot of people want to see that. So I feel like everything is kind of wrapping up, and that leads me to the second point here. So the other thing that makes me think that we have a time skip is I think that when you look at what Ukyo Kodachi has been saying in the last couple of months, right? So back during Jump Fiesta when he was talking, he talked about the fact that Konoha has a drug problem. It's being run by the Underworld, which is basically the black market and everything. And we find out that the Car organization has been dabbling in that, and that there are people who are close to the feudal lord who have influence, who are trying to get Naruto ousted as Hokage. They have members of Car who are operating freely within the Land of Fire. They want to remove the feudal lord. And when you start looking at all of this stuff here, one of the things that really makes me think is this very well could be something that sets up that actual invasion that we get when Kawaki comes to Konoha and potentially destroys it. I think that having these outer members be something that basically causes the shakeup is something that would be very good writing, because essentially we've been misdirected. We've been focusing on the powerful ones, and one of the things about Naruto is that it's not always the most powerful character who's able to change the scope of battle or is able to make the biggest impact on the Naruto world in itself. So I think that that is something we can kind of look at. So when you look at the time skip, I think that the other thing we have to kind of consider is, let's be real for a second, okay? Like, while we enjoy the Boruto manga, okay? Like, I know I make my gripes about the manga. I make it very clear. I'm very fucking critical of the manga. I enjoy reading it, but I don't pull my punches on it. But the thing is by starting the manga with the versus Momoshiki arc and doing that retelling, a lot of people were turned off on it because we had just gone through that with Dragon Ball Super, and now you're getting the same thing with Boruto, where we spend over a year going over stuff we had already seen in the versus Momoshiki, excuse me, in the Naruto Boruto the movie, and in the versus Momoshiki arc, there was nothing really added of substance to the manga version until you get to that moment when Momoshiki curses Boruto. And then the Majima Bandits arc in the manga, it kind of progressed very slowly over the next 4 months. Things really didn't start kicking up until we got to Cars. So essentially 16 months after the Boruto manga launched. So a lot of people got turned off at that point. And when it comes to anime, a lot of people got turned off because we went through the school days and the anime was going through all these different slice of life arcs and was trying to keep distance from the Boruto manga. And now they come out and they said, hey, you know, in 2020, you're gonna get the Majima Bandits arc, you're gonna see Car for the first time, and you're going to see Kawaki for the first time. And they even did voiceovers for the Naruto versus Jigen battle with Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen. And so when you start looking at all that, that makes me think that if the anime is going to adapt at the bare minimum the Majima Bandits and the Owl arc, and they're going to introduce Kawaki right after that, that lets me know right there that the manga is either going to have another short arc or it's going to be in the process of another long arc. And the best time to do that would be to introduce time skip material. And the reason for that is it gives the anime a chance to start adapting to stuff that's going to get people more interested in the anime. Because if the anime has the same pop that the manga had once it started getting to chapter 16 onward, the anime gets that same pop. What's going to end up happening is when you find out that there's a time skip and you see teenage Boruto, teenage Sarada, you see all these characters, even though technically they're teenagers now, the fact that they'll be 3 years older and they'll be taller, there'll be new designs. All of a sudden, when you get to being able to do the Boruto anime, you can reboot it. You can basically do what Dragon Ball did. The first episode of Dragon Ball Z was almost a continuation of the Dragon Ball anime. And so when you really look at this, look at how that benefited both series. Dragon Ball Z is more well known than the actual Dragon Ball anime. Naruto Shippuden, for better or worse, is better known and better loved by a lot, especially newer fans, than the Naruto portion of the anime. And so if you do this with Boruto and you rebrand it, maybe you drop the Boruto Naruto Next Generations tagline and you call it Boruto and you have a subtitle to it, or maybe you call it Boruto Jin Raiden or Boruto Raiden, maybe you call it something like that. One of the things that you're able to do at this point is you're able to bring more people into it, because now all of a sudden Boruto has an edgier design, you know the stakes are higher, and you know that there's more content. And so by the time that happens, the manga will already be further into the time skip material, and so now the manga gets a sales spike as well. But I want to know from you guys, do you guys think that we're going to be getting a time skip this year, or do you think that we're still a ways off? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. As always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching only to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.